providing differentiated instruction. An American history class is beginning to study the Civil War. Some students possess some prior knowledge of the topic and are interested in learning more. Others are unfamiliar with the topic and show little interest at all. Some students are 2 or 3 years ahead of grade level in reading ability, while others are at least that far behind. Some are in various stages of learning English, and a few have learning disabilities. A variety of ethnic cultures are represented in the class, yet the teacher is engaging all of these students and teaching them, pulling off this classroom miracle through a process called differentiated instruction. Differentiated instruction is an approach to teaching that encourages teachers to vary their approaches to best accommodate the vast diversity displayed by students in the same classroom. Teachers, recognizing that students differ in many ways, including prior knowledge and experiences, readiness, interests, language, culture, and learning preferences, adapt the way they teach in order to reach all their students. The goal of differentiated instruction is to meet each student where he or she is, and to provide learning opportunities that maximize each student's growth and success. In understanding what differentiated instruction is, it is important to know what it is not. Dumbing down the lesson is not differentiated instruction. Also, individualized teaching is not differentiated instruction. Teachers do not have to create a different lesson plan for each student in the classroom. To the contrary, differentiated instruction simply supplements a lesson plan by providing a variety of ways whereby all learners can access the knowledge and skills. The key element in differentiated instruction: empathy. Suppose that you are one of the following students. Sarah grasps things very well when she sees examples of the lesson material, but has great difficulty comprehending it by listening to someone telling her about it. Miguel, who is shy and a bit socially inept, feels intimidated and will seldom offer a contribution when he is in a large group. Amber is very bright and already knows most of what will be presented in today's lesson. Can you imagine what it must feel like to be one of those students in a classroom where virtually all of the instruction is provided by a teacher who stands in front of the class and lectures? Today's classrooms are heterogeneous, and the students who populate the classrooms deserve better than a one-size-fits-all approach. They deserve an empathetic teacher who is willing to spend some time and effort supplementing a lesson plan whereby most of the students are able to access the learning goal. Sound daunting? Not to worry. It is recommended that teachers adopt differentiating practices slowly, perhaps one content area at a time. Also, those teachers who desire to differentiate will find empathy and common sense to be as important as are the instructions of the experts. The key factor is caring about the students. Some strategies to consider. In a typical differentiated classroom, the essential concepts, facts, and skills to be learned are the same for all students. What usually differs are the way in which students are provided access to that information. The following strategies can help accomplish that goal. Identifying the basics of differentiated instruction. Careful attention is paid to the learning preferences of the students. Whenever feasible, students are offered choices. Honoring students' learning preferences. There are two basic types of learning preferences: learning modes and instructional venues. Student learning modes include visual learning, auditory learning, and kinesthetic learning. After the introduction of an essential concept, the teacher should strive to provide all students, whether their learning preference be visual, auditory, or kinesthetic, satisfactory access to the subject material. A primary strategy for doing so is to provide multiple examples of the concept that is being taught. For instance, in a science class studying a unit on microorganisms, one workstation has a film for visual learners, another station has a taped lecture for auditory learners, and yet a third station offers microscopes for kinesthetically oriented students to work with the concept. Or, if the concept is being studied over a period of days, each of the above learning modes can be featured on separate days. A time-proven way of addressing the needs of both visual and auditory learners is to show a PowerPoint presentation while lecturing. Offering the choice of texts of varying degrees of difficulty helps those with reading difficulties to engage with the lesson and at the same time satisfies the learning preferences of visual learners. And hands-on activities like building a volcano that erupts or coloring a map or acting out a historical scene using puppets provide access to the core concept for kinesthetic learners. A creative teacher can address students' different learning modes in an endless variety of ways. The second student learning preference has to do with instructional venues. In addition to full class sessions, teachers can offer students the opportunity to work in groups, in pairs, or independently. One of the perks of offering flexible, short-term grouping options is that they can help stimulate students' interest and productivity. Students may be grouped with peers of similar readiness and ability and other times placed in mixed readiness groups, where they draw upon each other's strengths. At times, students of similar learning modes may be grouped together, such as a group of visual learners watching a video, or students may be assigned to work in one of 3 groups tiered by difficulty where all students work on the same task, but with different levels of teacher support. In addition to assigning groups, teachers may simply have students count off into groups, work with whoever is sitting beside them, or draw a partner's name. Sometimes students can be allowed to express their preference and choose their own instructional venue. Offering choices to students. From time to time, and when the subject material permits, the class can be offered the opportunity to choose how a topic will be taught, including the learning modes and the instructional venues. Or, students may be offered a choice of workstations or work groups in completing an assignment. When dealing with an advanced student, providing choices is particularly important. When Amber completes her assignment ahead of the others in the class, she can be offered the choice of working on a higher level assignment on the same topic, or the option of working independently on something else of her choosing. Another option that can be offered to gifted and talented students, or early finishers, is to read a library book while others finish their work. Another tactic of differentiated instruction is to provide students a variety of choices in reporting information. While the time-honored use of the written test is usually the norm, a differentiated classroom will sometimes offer students other choices as to how they demonstrate the knowledge or skill they have acquired. For example, students who demonstrate ADHD characteristics will usually share learned information much better through verbal rather than written testing. And a history professor might allow his students the choice of demonstrating their knowledge by working together creating a rap to describe a historical event, and then grading all the students in the group the same regarding the finished product. The choices of learning preferences and options that can be offered in a classroom is limited only by the creative skills of the differentiating teacher. Getting started with differentiating. Start small. Try one subject, one strategy, or one class. Start where you are. Do you already offer different learning modes in teaching a concept, or do you already use student groupings? If so, continue with those techniques and gradually add others. Tell the students what you are doing. Inform them that you are implementing a new and exciting way of teaching and discuss some of the options so they will know what to expect. Rearrange the classroom. Adjust the classroom so that it will accommodate grouping and pairing as well as all class instruction. Post routines. Make sure students know when and how to move around the room. The need for all teachers to consider ways of implementing differentiated instruction is summed up in the words of teacher Judy Rex. In the end, all learners need your energy, your heart, and your mind. They have that in common because they are young humans. How they need you, however, differs. Unless we understand and respond to those differences, we fail many learners. Learning how to address student diversity in the classrooms will take time and effort and is an ongoing process. However, differentiated instruction will pay huge dividends in terms of the growth of individual learners. Our students deserve the opportunity for that growth.